All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to build this beautiful looking recipe app. And if you're wondering, well, why does it look half done? Well, part of your assignment will be to build the functionality of the app. And if you choose the front-end designer track for the individual project, you'll have to redesign this. And so I didn't want to put too much visual design into the app. And so that's why it doesn't look great. I just kind of put the bare minimum styles into the app. But what's more important is, what does this app do? You can create recipes and store them. And so you can click on a recipe, and then when you click on a recipe, you can see its name, its description, the ingredients you need, and the steps you'll take. Again, it looks awful. And that's because I just really wanted to not design it for you. Part of your job is to design it. So you can view the actual recipe, and you can also add what are called nested fields. And so this is sort of a more advanced Rails functionality, and that's you can add dynamic fields. So if you wanted to continue adding more fields, mushrooms, green pepper, you could add steps, roll it up, and then put it in the oven. So you can add those, and those will show up as you add them. The other cool thing is you can remove them dynamically too. So, oh, I don't need sauce, or let's remove these steps. You can remove them, and they get removed from the app as well. So that's sort of fairly advanced. So you've got a recipe, you can add ingredients, you can add steps, and then the index will show all of the recipes that you've created. I've also created just a static page to teach you how to generate and create static pages for your apps. So that'll be part of this tutorial. And so that's sort of the gist of what the app does. It's fairly simple, but significantly more complex than the survey app that you built previously. So before we get going, I'll want to show you the database diagram that I'll be referring back to as we continue through the development of this project. I would really recommend creating database diagrams if you can. They help kind of guide you, give you some structure and some idea of where you're going as you're building the app. So we're not going to focus too much on the users here. If you choose the development track as opposed to the front-end design track, then you'll create and build out the user functionality on your own. You'll use what's called the devise gem to do that. And so I'm not going to talk about user management in this video tutorial, but I will talk about this middle section. So basically what we'll do is we will create an app that can store recipes. The recipes have a title with the variable of string and a description with the variable of text. And the recipes have many ingredients, and the recipes also have many steps. Okay, so it's a fairly simple infrastructure, but again, significantly more complex than what we've built previously. So let's get going. So I'm going to shut down my server, and I'm just going to start from scratch so you can follow along with me. If you have a Mac, open your terminal. If you've got Windows, open your command line. And so I'm going to change directory into my Rails folder. You can change directory into any folder you'd like. And I'm going to generate a new app. So we'll go Rails new, and I'm going to name this app recipe _ DB. So it's my recipe database app. And I'm going to and you'll have to be connected to the internet to initialize your first app. So I want to change directories into my new app, so recipe _ DB. And I'm going to run the Rails server to make sure that it's running. And so we are installed correctly. We've got our Rails and our Ruby all going, and that's perfect. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to open up a new tab in my terminal. You can open up a new window or a new tab, I believe, in Windows in your command line. And then what I want to do is I want to initialize a GitHub repository. This is all presupposed on the fact that you've already created a GitHub account and you've linked it with your local machine. You should have done this already. If you haven't, go back and view the GitHub video tutorial to see how to do this. So we're going to do a git init, so that initializes the Git repository, and then we're going to do a git add that adds our files and our first commit. Git commit -m first commit. I'll just leave this here for a second in case you're just still getting used to Git. Okay, so that should initialize it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log into GitHub. I'm going to click, so this is what you should see when you log into GitHub. I'm going to click New Repository. And there is jackhammering. And then I'm going to create a repository called recipe_db. You want to make sure that your initialize this repository is unchecked. So we're going to click Create Repository. Then we're going to basically link up our local machine, the repository on our local machine, with our online repository. We've already done the first couple steps. We want to skip down to the second to last step here. Git remote add origin. We're going to add our origin repository here, and then we're going to push to our master. And what this should do is this should now push to and be connected with your local app is now connected with your online repository. So we've done that. All of my first commit files are showing up, so we're in good shape. Okay, so let's go back to our, well, let's open up our recipe_db app in Sublime Text. Try to make this a little bigger for you. And then let's go back to our database diagram. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a scaffold for recipe. And a scaffold, just as a reminder, is it's going to generate your view files, it's going to generate your controller, and it's going to generate your model file. So if you need all three of those, the model, the view, and the controller files generated, you can use what's called a scaffold. It'll automatically create those. So we'll do that, and we'll do Rails G scaffold, and then we want to call this scaffold recipe. And then we want to say each recipe has a title with the variable string and a description with the variable text. So that will generate a migration for this scaffold. After you've generated the migration, you're going to want to do a rake db:/migrate. So again, when you generate the migration, it's just generating a file that is telling Rails to do something. You actually have to initialize or execute the migration for it to do that. So just by doing that little bit of code, we've already created this box. We finished this box already, which is pretty awesome. So if we go to our localhost 3000 /recipes, we should see our index page, and we can now create a new recipe. So let's just say pizza is our first recipe. This is a recipe for delicious pizza. And we're in good shape. It's all working. We've got our title, our description, our index page, our show page, our edit page. Those are all working.